What's up, booktube? Welcome back. My name is Laura if you're new here, and today I'm talking about the books that I've most recently hauled. So it's been about 3 months, give or take, since I did my last book haul, and since then I have acquired 6 new books to talk about today. These first 2 I bought brand new as pre-orders, the first one being Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I am so excited for this book. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I keep meaning to. This cover is so freaking beautiful, and like the material of the dust jacket is like I don't know how to explain it. It's like a matte papery feeling to it. I don't know. I like it though. I'm not really sure what the book is about, to be completely honest. From what I remember, it gives me like major Crimson Peak vibes, and I'm so here for that. Basically, the plot follows a young girl whose mother has, I believe she's passed away like pretty recently, but her mother told her whole life to never go to Gallant, which was their like family's manor home thing. Big old fancy house. But after her mother dies, she gets a letter from somebody in the family who lives there telling her to come home to Gallant, and so she goes. But when she gets there, nobody actually sent that letter, and there's all these like creepy things happening, so it's very much like haunted house vibes. It really feels like Crimson Peak, which is one of my favorite movies ever. So I hope that I love this one. It sounds like deliciously gothic and spooky as hell, and I can't wait to get to it. I kind of want to save it for like Halloween season, but I also want to read it like right now, so we'll see what happens. And then the other book that I pre-ordered was So This Is Ever After by F.T. Lukens. This is their newest book, and I just adored it. I read it immediately. I actually got my pre-order like a week and a half before the book was published, so I read it immediately because I felt special having it early. This book is a really funny, satirical, very, very queer take on what happens to King Arthur after the prophecy is completed. So it follows Auric, our main character, and the whole troupe that's been traveling with him for however long they've been traveling for. I think like a year or so. The book opens right as they're killing the evil guy who's been ruling for however long, and Auric puts on the crown just for now until they find somebody else who's better to rule. But once he puts the crown on, the magic sets in and he has no choice but to remain king. And to make things worse, there's also a magic in the crown that says that he has no choice but to find a soulmate and get married before he turns 18, otherwise he will die. So he only has a few months, but he really wants to marry for love, and because he's too scared to tell his best friend and mage Matt that he's in love with him, he decides to try and woo all of his closest friends and try and see if one of them will fall for him, because apparently that's easier than just confessing his love to his friend. This was such a funny book, but there was also like some really sweet and tender moments in here, and I just adored it. It is so beautifully queer as well. It's set in a queer normative world, and I just really, really enjoyed that. I love this book so much. It was amazing. Definitely one of my favorites of the year so far. And for these next 4, my roommate's friend was unhauling a whole bunch of books, and she let us kind of pick and choose which ones we wanted, so that's where the rest of these came from. The first one being They Both Die at the End by Silvera. I read this book last year and it destroyed me, like just completely wrecked my soul. It was heart-wrenching and beautiful, and I fucking loved this book. It was amazing. I love when a book can make me sob, like just like uncontrollable tears. It makes me so happy. And this book definitely accomplished that. It was just so heartbreaking. This book is set in our world, but with a little bit of a sci-fi twist to it. The government has figured out a way to find out when everybody is going to die. So every night between midnight and 3 a.m., if you get a phone call from this one number, they're calling to inform you that at some point in the next 24 hours you are going to die. And there is nothing that you can do about it. It doesn't matter how hard you try or where you go, it's going to happen. And so this book follows 2 main characters who are both on their death days, and they end up meeting, and they go on this big adventure together and just have one last really good day and end up falling in love in the process as well. And it was just so heartbreaking. I'm like tearing up just talking about this right now. I'm gonna put this down before I start crying. I love this book. Please pick it up. I also grabbed The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I honestly have no idea what this book is about, but I've seen it around and the cover is really pretty, and that is the only reason that I grabbed it. I think I thought this book was a fantasy when it first came out, but I'm pretty sure it's just a historical fiction. Yeah, from the back of the book here, it seems like it's about a woman who owns a apothecary, and she sells some very cleverly disguised poisons for women to use against the abuse of men in their lives. That's really all that I know about it. I'm not sure when it'll get to this one, but at some point I will. I only grabbed it because I like the cover of it. That's the only reason. And then I've got The Gossamer Mage by Julie E. Czerneda. This one I've had on my TBR for years, and I could not tell you what it's about. But this cover is beautiful though. This book takes place in a world where they worship the deathless goddess, and this goddess demands that her magic be used, even though every time a mage uses her magic, they age more and more until they have no choice but to stop. And then for this magic as well, if a mage does it wrong, then the magic becomes what's called a Gossamer, which I believe is some kind of like horrible monster thing. Yeah, a magical creature as wild and free as it is costly for the mage. This just sounds so cool. Normally when I've had a book on my TBR for this long but I haven't picked it up yet, I'll normally take it off, but this one just sounds so interesting that I want to keep it on there because I do really want to read it, and now I own it, so I have even more incentive to finally read this book. I love things that have to do with like death magic and that kind of thing, so I think I'm going to really enjoy this one whenever I finally get around to it. And then the last book for this haul is Spinning Silver by Noami Novik. I read Uprooted, I think it was either earlier this year or like late last year, one of the two. I think it was this year. Doesn't matter. I really enjoyed that book. I thought it was fantastic. The writing is just incredible, and like her world building is just wow. It was beautiful. I'm not too sure where the plot actually goes in this one, but I know it has to do with a girl whose family is in severe debt, and so she takes it into her own hands to help them, and she gains a reputation for being able to turn silver into gold. But this catches the attention of the Fae Ice King, and I think he sets her on like some kind of impossible challenge, and then I really have no clue what happens after that, but that in itself sounds fantastic. This seems like a very like wintry kind of book, and I wanted to pick it up during the winter time, but I just didn't have a chance to get to it. But again, now I own it, so hopefully soon I'll finally get to it. I don't want to wait until winter because like I want to read it right now, but like I also say that about every single book that I have on my TBR, so I'll probably end up waiting until winter time. But either way, I'm so excited for it. I love her writing style. It is like genuinely so beautiful. It's a very like whimsical kind of fantasy, very much a fairy tale vibe, which I just adore in fantasy, so I can't wait to get to this one. Alright, so those are all the books that I've recently hauled. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if they're on their TBR. I'd love to hear your thoughts about them. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!